In the rewrite tonight, another episode of The Devil is in the Details. Tonight's episode, of course, is Herman Cain's 999 tax plan. Let's listen to yet another confident explanation of 999 by Herman Cain yesterday in New Hampshire.
On the first nine, relative to corporate profits, you are allowed to deduct, this was in the calculation, you are allowed to deduct purchases and capital investments. 100%, no depreciation schedules, capital expenses, and purchases. If those purchases were made here in the United States of America.
So that's it. Businesses are allowed to deduct only purchases and capital investments, which are, of course, really just big purchases. So purchases and big purchases. Now, that would bankrupt most American businesses because the 999 plan does not allow them to deduct what is the biggest expense for most businesses. Salaries. Can't deduct salaries. Nor does the 999 plan allow businesses to deduct rent or attorney's fees or accountant's fees or all sorts of regular costs of doing business. The 999 plan does not understand the difference between a company's revenue and that company's profit. It is impossible to calculate a company's profit without accounting for, that is to say, deducting all of its real, legitimate expenses. Under the 999 plan, companies that lose money, they make no profit at all, would still have to pay taxes on their non-existent profit. Cain's version of the 9% tax on businesses would actually be a huge tax increase on most businesses. It would, in fact, be a business-killing tax. It would put some companies out of business, which means it would be a jobs-killing tax. In 1819, Chief Justice John Marshall famously wrote in a Supreme Court decision, "The power to tax involves the power to destroy." Herman Cain shows you exactly how to do that with his ill-conceived 9% corporate tax that does not allow corporations to include reasonable and normal business expenses. I'm not talking about their wild, complicated tax loopholes. I'm talking about all normal, reasonable business expenses. They're not allowed to be deducted under the 999 plan. Now, if a Democrat had proposed this, Fox News would be screaming about a crazed anti-business socialist who was going to destroy American businesses and the American economy. Now let's restart that tape and listen to the rest of what Herman Cain had to say.
On the first nine, relative to corporate profits, you are allowed to deduct, this was in the calculation, you are allowed to deduct purchases and capital investments. 100%, no depreciation schedules, capital expenses, and purchases. If those purchases were made here in the United States of America. If you purchase components from a country outside of the United States, you can't deduct them. What does that do, folks? It makes U.S. goods more competitive with the rest of the world. It levels the playing field. This is how we deal with China.
Oh, okay. First of all, that doesn't level the playing field. That tilts the playing field in favor of American products over foreign products. Now, I know it's asking way too much of the Herman Cain campaign or most of the campaign press to know that that would be in violation of the international trade rules enforced by the World Trade Organization. Those rules are supported by the United States because without them, we would risk being unable to sell our products anywhere in the world. What Herman Cain wants to do is put a tax on Chinese goods or any foreign goods that any American corporation purchases. He's not calling it a tariff, but that is what it is, and it violates every trade agreement we have in American law now, including the 3 that Congress finally passed last night. And if the United States was ever crazy enough to do something like this, other countries would retaliate immediately, creating a virtual shutdown of American exports around the world. Boeing would be stuck trying to sell new aircraft exclusively inside the 50 United States, while Airbus would be selling its aircraft everywhere else in the world. But Boeing wouldn't actually be selling any new aircraft, because new aircraft in America would have Cain's new 9% tax on it, and used aircraft wouldn't. See, this simplifying the tax code thing gets wicked complicated wicked fast. Yesterday in New Hampshire, it got too complicated for Herman Cain on the very first question he was asked when he finished describing his 999 plan. It was the single best question anyone has asked Herman Cain so far, including every question that I asked him last week.
So, sir, if you bought under 999 an Apple computer designed in the United States with components made in Malaysia and assembled in China, do you get to deduct it?
I have no idea.
The man with the plan has no idea whether an American corporation would be able to deduct the purchase of its computers, any computer, because there are no computers made in the United States with only American components. None. Doesn't exist. That product does not exist. There is no American car made in the United States with only American-made components. Is a BMW made in South Carolina an American car?
I have no idea.
Is a Toyota Camry made in Kentucky an American car?
I have no idea.
Oh, and because according to a Department of Energy report, it is usually impossible to tell whether the petroleum products you use came from domestic or imported sources of oil once they are refined, would airlines in America and other businesses be able to deduct their fuel expenses?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I have no idea.